Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Tier Symank. He's a Sergeant Major, 19th Special Forces Group. You might know him on Instagram as Red Leader. Standing by, he is a regional troubleshooter, a back alley surgeon, a reluctant writer, and Green Beret middle management. He is also a member of the board at the Montana Vet Program. The mission of Montana Vet Program is to provide veteran-led therapeutic adventure trips to our country's struggling veterans in order to promote healing through camaraderie, physical activity, adventure, and tough-minded healing. I'll have links to his and theirs in the show description. As always, today's episode is brought to you by the Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group helps you restore balance, unlock vitality, and fuel your momentum through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician, as I say, super sophisticated intro here to my show. Tier Symack. Welcome to
Here I
Lesser
am.
Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been
Um,
watching the reels and the podcast and whatnot. Going, maybe I'm too well known. Maybe I'm not lesser known enough. When's he gonna hit me
maybe
up?
I'm too lazy in my marketing. And you know, for when I started, it was I had to message random people and just sending out messages. I've got no followers. I've got no shows out. I'm just messaging people like, "Hey, I promise I'm not a weirdo. Will you come on my show and talk about your whole career? I promise I'm not out to hurt anybody. I just want to
How'd that
talk to
go? How was
people."
that received?
Oh, it's fine. Actually, it was way better than I thought it would be. And people would get back with me. We'd sit and talk, and it was just rolling. Like last year, I recorded 130 episodes last year at least. Um, yeah.
The only reason I'm asking is because there's that whole kind of debate on the quiet professional moniker. Like, what does
Ooh,
that mean? Does it mean we never say anything about anything and nobody knows who we are ever, and we just get a blank tombstone and that's our reward, or is it like this where we tell the good stuff and we promote the community? And I think I've said this numerous times, but the biggest enemy of the Special Forces Regiment is the Green Beret.
yeah,
If we
yeah.
are a bunch of mean girls and nobody hates a Green Beret like another Green Beret.
So, all right, I think about this a lot, right? And I'm a civilian. I'm now a retired Green Beret, and I can do and say whatever I want. Now, what's the right thing to say and what's the wrong thing to say? Well, the only way to know that is after you say it. And luckily, so many people have already said every single wrong thing you can say
Yeah.
to where I just go, I don't have to say that. I'm not going to say that. I'm definitely not going to say that. I'm not going to go do that. And I can avoid that. But quiet, that part needs to go away. We just need to be professionals. You just need to be
Ooh, I like
professional. And
that.
what's a professional look like? Well, it's never get lost and always look cool. and everything falls under always look cool. Is your uniform squared away? I was an 18 Charlie. I know how to build a house. I know how to blow up a house. I know how to fucking dig a hole that I can bury bodies in. You know, I can lead a formation. I can't march in the Army's 250th, but I can do a lot of other things that make me the professional. And I know what the person in front of me does for their job. I know what my subordinate needs to do. I know what I'm doing. Everything falls under always look cool. So quiet needs to go away. We need to be professionals. And that there's no disputing that. Everybody can say, what does quiet professional mean? But there's no disputing what professional means. It's it. It's a whole word is the description.
I've
So
never heard anybody make that point before, and it's a good one. It is a good
like
one.
I said, quiet professionals is the worst thing to happen to special forces because in the two generations ago, that's great. You know, we don't live 2 generations ago. We live in the modern era now, and there's competition for the incoming generation. There's competition for the missions. There's we have all these commands. We have SOCOM and JSOC, and oh, we got a doggy. We're in command for attention here.
Hello, friend.
Oh, it's just a baby. Oh, so the previous era, that time is over. We don't live there. We've got a fucking supercomputer that we carry around in our pocket. Everybody that I talk to that's the era older than you says they got to the team room and there was a phone plugged into the wall and a folding chair. And that was it. That was the only way that you communicated with the outside world. And now things are different. So
Yeah.
we need to change. Everything needs to change.
Evolve. Needs
Yeah.
to evolve.
Yeah.
You're not wrong,
So
man.
what are your thoughts on it though?
Well, I've got a unique perspective because I started writing kind of back in the blog era uh, while I had a TS clearance and working on special access programs. And then I became a company sergeant major while I was writing. So I've had to kind of dart in and out. I made the personal decision to basically just hang up the keyboard anytime that I was operational. With the exception of like I would there's a couple times I wrote a Thanksgiving post or I would write something that is completely unaffiliated with a deployment I was on. And things like that. Like uh there's a post I made on Instagram a number of years ago where I just talked about the unit's Thanksgiving experience and bringing the boys in and, having a good unit meal and guys bitching about it initially, but also having a really good time, and giving thanks and remembering who they were, remembering our boys that weren't on that trip because they bought it in the last trip, things like that. And I'm going to bounce around a little bit. That was cathartic for me, one, for the experience, but I think also everybody could resonate with that, whether it was somebody else in SOF or a conventional person or a leader or even civilians, that their Thanksgiving experience is watching a Charlie Brown special. But it didn't give away anything operational. The picture that went along with it was my boots. I was standing on a roof. It was a picture of my boots. And I didn't get any pushback from command or anything like that. The only thing I've ever been asked to take down was a selfie of me in a parachute. I thought it was a funny picture because I looked terrified. It was just a static line jump, midair. My BC at the time asked me to take that down. I don't know if there's any reg against there or not, but it's fine. I've kind of gone, and this is just my personal experience. I've tried to, when it comes to things that have to directly do with the regiment, I've tried to only do things that would aid in recruiting or change that would better the boys. I think the post that really got me out there the first time was, well, there's two of them. Way back in the day, North American Rescue posted a video of a guy in mechanic coveralls amputating a dude's leg. Um, and I don't know where they got the footage, but that was me. And I had that footage. I assume I got it from somebody in the schoolhouse because uh, I think that's the only other, aside from my teammates, I think that's the only other people that had it. Um, and so eventually I reached out and said, hey, that's me if you want to know the whole story behind it. Cause I wrote up a whole case study on the thing. Excuse me. And then the other thing, there's a photo in the SF museum on Bragg. Actually there's two photos of me in the SF museum on Bragg. Um, and there's one that it comes up every couple of years and makes the rounds on Reddit and everywhere else. And it's usually the fanboys say, "Oh, it's the D boys out on the border." I'm like, it is not the D boys. It's me and two of my teammates and three of our militia. But it's we're standing up on a ridge line in the Hindu Kush. We're wearing shorts. Two of my guys are wearing UDTs. I'm wearing like zip off camping pants, and I'm carrying an M24. And actually, I told you I was going through a bunch of CIS stuff. I think I'm wearing this load bearing equipment
Ooh, that's an
in that
ancient
photo.
relic from a forgotten era there.
Yeah, I actually wore that on stage. Um, so those are the only two things. Like those have been the biggest things that have gone out that uh, were self promoting, but I didn't promote. I didn't post them first. Oh, and there's a third thing. So I was with Task Force in 2017, and they were real big on not having cell phones anywhere except in your chew. And I was a director at Sergeant Major at the time, and so I didn't. But I went out on a overnight op, uh, and nothing I'm saying right now is not in the caption that was released. So I was an overnight op out in Faryab, which is northwest Afghanistan, and I come back like I don't know 2, 3 in the morning, and back to Camp Alpha. I wake up around 1 and look at my phone real quick and scroll on Instagram before I go into the office. And there's some fanboy page that has changed their profile picture to a picture of me and a CCT from 12 hours before on that op. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is nuts. Like, I'm the only person in this entire compound that has any kind of social media following. I'm being very strict about it. And now there's a picture of me on social media. So that's when I learned what DVids was. So I had no
Yeah.
idea prior to that. But yeah, there's a Air Force Comcam had been on the op and had taken a photo with some insane aperture and shutter speed for a night photo. It's the second time I've been listed as a combat controller by the Air Force on their stuff. But so anyway, that's like three big things that have gone out, and those have been pushed by other people, and eventually I've reposted them. So come full circle to what I was saying. I've tried not to promote myself too much in terms of look at me, I'm a special forces operator, blah blah blah. I think most of my following came from was my writing, which being a Green Beret is a very big part of me. So things are going to come out there, but it wasn't like check out Billy Badass here, and if you really try really hard, you can be just like me. It's more like don't make the same mistakes I did.
Yeah.
I think that's been more of my writing style. I hope anyway.
Yeah, it's our hope to guide people to not make the same mistakes we did, but some of those mistakes you have to make, otherwise you're not gonna learn anything if
You're
you don't make it.
100%
So
right.
there's some mistakes you absolutely have to make, but there's the the life ending or career ending ones, possibly career ending ones. Those ones, you don't really have to, unless
Yeah,
unless there's no other option. Like if you're going off a cliff and you need a hard right, well, then you're going to have to learn the lesson the hard way.
I've seen that as a dad. I've seen it as a team sergeant. I've seen it as a sergeant major. Um, One unique thing about the guard is, SOCOM has a pillow time set. You have to have a certain amount of dwell time before you can head out the door again. And I forget when that started, but I was definitely in E9 when it started. Um,
I topped the list at first group in 2017. Uh,
for dwell
my
time.
sergeant, my sergeant mate, yeah, because I came back, bottle of whiskey deal, went right back to the Korea, and my sergeant major came in and he went, "You're never going anywhere ever again." And I went, "Oh
Yeah.
fuck."
Well, when that went into place, the guard started being used a lot more, 19th and 20th, and various little use of sock support elements in the guard started being used a lot more, not by UIC, but by individual. So I don't know if this has changed. I have no idea. But that dwell time was tracked on the active duty side by DoD ID number. On the Title 32 side, it's tracked by UIC. All it takes to switch your unit is a 4187. So you had
Resets everything.
yeah, you just jumping deployments, guard bums, guard whores, whatever you want to call it. It really didn't change that much for the guard guys. But I remember I was a company sergeant major in Korea, the AOBK mission, in
When?
2018.
Okay, so I did 16 and 17, so you did 18. So you took over
Yeah, I
for
probably relieved you.
nope, you took over for Alpha 3 1. Alpha 3 1.
Oh, okay. So it was Rhode Island that relieved you then. Um, those were good dudes too. So I had a really good, just shit hot 18 Delta that was a contractor on the outside. A lot of us were. Uh, that's what I did too. But I was making the rounds. I was visiting the teams out at their places. And went to eat lunch with these guys. This one team. It was actually my little team, and I was getting questions about the demo process and when exactly we were going to be off orders. And everybody needs to have that. Families need to know that. But the reason he needed to know that was so he could tell civilian employment, uh, the federal agency, when he was available to deploy again. I said, brother, you need to take a break when you get back from this. You cannot. He said, I am. I'm taking 2 weeks. I said, it's not enough. Like I said, I've had 3 divorces. If you want to be like me, keep doing what you're doing. You have to put some time in there, not just for you to reset, but for your family to know who their husband and their dad is. And he did not heed that, and predictably, he's divorced now. So yeah, to your point, uh, you can lead him to water, but you can't make him drink.
No, and not to plug uh, any of my merchandise or anything, but you saw the Special Forces mistress that my wife came up with.
Yeah,
Um, that's a real fucking thing, man.
it is.
That's
I hate that it was an
that,
officer that came up with it, but it is a real thing.
um, rest in peace. He's dead. Now we've reimagined it, and I'm also rewriting that poem to modernize it, make it a little darker. But we're gonna have a whole new thing. We're coming into the modern era, and we've got the artwork. I'm gonna rewrite that, and we're gonna have shirts and all kinds of shit. But that's a real thing. She will not let you go, and it doesn't matter if it's Green Beret or a CCT or a PJ or a fucking SEAL. It doesn't matter. There is. It's all the same thing. Once you start, you don't want it to end. It's like a Um, Not me. My first ODA fucking sucked. But you get to that team and everything's awesome, and you're just trying to get that to keep going your whole career. And maybe you get back to it, maybe you get there, maybe it's better, but it just stays at this level that you want to be at for your whole career. And then one day, you make the 9 list and it's over, or you go to this off and this you go to your hey, you're taking over the sig debt, or hey, you got to go to you're going to be the S3X.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be the S3X. Oh well, guess what? We don't have anybody to send, so you're never going back to a team again either. So, and shit like that happens. So you're always chasing it, and then that's when guys can also self destruct. But we are
Oh
very
yeah.
good at self destructing at any fucking time. Also,
Dudes get real poopy faced when you take them away from their tribe.
yeah, yeah. Even though they're just across the street, it's just right over there. Um, So, but the fear of the unknown, the fear of what we don't know, because when you're on the team, you understand the team life. When you're on the B team, you understand what the teams go through and the B team has. Then you go to battalion, then you realize, oh, there's a lot of shit going on here. Maybe I need to learn. Maybe I need to learn some more. And then you learn more, and then you realize group doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Battalion doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. The companies barely know what they're doing, and the teams, the ones that are never around, they got it figured out because they're always in the field or they're out fucking training, and they're just, hey, where's 3-6? I don't fucking. They're out training because the team sergeant knows if you're around, you're gonna fucking get hit with something, and if you're not around, they can't make you do anything.
It's true. Keep that schedule filled, or somebody's going to fill it for you.
The best team sergeants, the team was never around. They were there on Monday, and you never saw them again.
I arguably made rank too fast. I was a E7 team sergeant.
In the
It's
guard,
funny. Yeah. So after OF1, I missed OF1 because I was in language school. But I went to OEF right afterwards. I came back, and that first team after OF1, because combat was so new to everybody, agencies were hungry. About half my team went to Title 50 operations, and the other half either became or returned to being cops and firefighters. And throughout, I would say the thick of the GWAT, my team maintained about a 50% contractor population. Even when I was a company sergeant major, 40%, I was a sergeant major of A119 in Buckley. So we had natural feeders out of 275 and first group, especially first group. So there was no shortage of talent coming out, but guys really didn't know what they're getting into. And especially guys that thought they were going to get a break from op tempo. Yeah, I got all that. I just don't remember what the point was I was making.
I hate when that happens. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, it was beautiful. It was like a flower.
Yeah,
It was
setting
right
it up.
there. And then all of a sudden it died. And now here we are. And I'm just and I always realize, because I'll watch back sometimes and I'll go, man, I'm using a lot of filler words there. I must not know what the fuck I was talking about.
When you put this into a reel, you need to put like the little spinning, the
The
loading
spinning.
thing, like, whoop.
And now it'll be a regularly scheduled program. Ah, no, man, you guys got an interesting thing there to go, but no, it's got to be a fucking interesting thing in the guard, because you said you're an E17 sergeant, and you said you made
That's what it
rank too
was.
fast.
Yeah. So we had 3 guys on my team go to SMUs, and my team sergeant was one of them. And actually, he's on public because he was killed in training in 2018. Sergeant Major Chris Nelms, best soldier I've ever known in my life. But when he made it through selection, and when he was pretty confident he was going to pass OTC, he literally handed me the keys to the team room and said, "You're it." But I was an E7 at the time, and I just turned down my company commander had asked me to be a warrant officer, and I turned him down saying I didn't have enough experience or maturity. And all of a sudden, I'm like, E7 team day. Um, but I ended up making like 18 months later or something like that. I spent 5 years as a team sergeant, which was awesome. Um, Great experience. And I'm very fortunate to have had the teammates I did, because that could have gotten really bad for me. Like if I had inherited a shit team as an E7, yeah, I would not have been a good team sergeant, I don't think. It's not that I didn't have any leadership challenges. It's just that I had these two dudes that both went on to do pretty great things elsewhere, that I called them my bulldogs, my pit bulls. If something reached me as a team sergeant, I knew it was bad, because they would handle things. It was my Fox and my senior Charlie. They would handle things before it got to me, whether by, peer shaming or just like, you need to straighten that up. Don't let don't let Tier find out about this. Like, and that was awesome. That was great. Um that enabled me to, it freed me up to do things like negotiate for better training, or so I had to backdoor a lot of things, because we did not have the budget to do a lot of the stuff we needed to do.
That's a good
So
point there to talk about, right? Because people will people will compare even a very good regular Army unit, like 82nd or 101st, where everything's clicking, right? And you go and you like compare it to special operations. I go, there's no fucking comparison. There's no comparison at all, because everybody's there's a level, and then there's another level, and then they graduate. Like it's another one, right? And you'll
yeah.
have a team room of 50 to 100% of the guys where they're within a couple percentage points of one another. These are badass motherfuckers, and there's a fucking room full of them, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Where even in the best units in the regular army, you've got somebody that can blow the whole ship up at any time, that on a team you've never heard of, like down the road and things like that. And everything gets to first sergeant, everything gets to the commander, and everything fucks up every time. Where you've got it in FF leaders, senior non-commissioned officers at every fucking rank that are handling problems that would derail things in the regular army everywhere. And this is just one trait of you go, it's the higher units you go to, these little things that are very hard to describe to somebody unless you get there. Is one thing people be like, oh, Green Berets aren't anything special, or SEALs aren't anything special. I go, have you been on a team? Like, it's pretty cool. I mean, I didn't get to do much, but there's a lot of people like me that I've never met in any other unit or anywhere in life, that they're just like me. There's a room full of them. And then you go down the hall and there's another room full of them. And then you go to other units and there's dudes just like you over there too. They're just better at swimming. That was terrible. But, you know, and it's a thing. You go, unless you spent time, I was never a ranger, right? People speak very highly of the Rangers. People, I respect their opinion. And I go, that sounds pretty cool, but I don't know. And I'm not going to compare myself to a Ranger, but that sounds pretty cool too. But is it better than me? I don't know. I didn't spend any time over there. But people like, oh, this unit's not shit. They don't do anything anyway. I go, you don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Yeah. It's I think that's the biggest critics I've seen that are in the special operation ranks are usually brand new guys who think they know something, and their
Well,
only
just think,
experience is whatever they did
how,
before
and this
and the
isn't,
viewpoints.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And I say
Those are the
one thing,
biggest
like,
detractors at the Guard. Oh, you're in the Guard? Like, yeah. Yes,
well,
I
now
am.
I get to work with 19th, and I go, this is pretty cool, guys. You guys
Yeah,
got a cool setup here. Um, but also, every 25-year-old dude is an idiot. You
that's
know,
true.
it doesn't matter if they're a Green Beret. It doesn't matter if they're a civilian working on a construction crew. It doesn't matter if they're an executive working in the C-suite, right? Every 25-year-old dude is an idiot, because I was a 25-year-old dude. And not to outdo anybody, but huge idiot. Made a lot of mistakes. And now I look back and go, oh, I'm kind of glad I made those mistakes because I have the perspective now about the things I did wrong. And I can offer advice to people that are that age and say, hey, man, I get where you're coming from. We make
I
a lot
think
of
I was
stupid mistakes.
25 when I graduated the Q course.
That's a lot
Pretty
of
sure.
power to give somebody that's 25 years old.
Bro. Yeah. And I was deployed almost immediately right after. And those were the early days of the GWAT. And the limit of what I could do is basically what was on me back then. You know, if you if you if you were a special forces soldier and you looked and acted like a special forces soldier, people assumed that you had the authority to do whatever it was you said you came in there to do or take or anything else.
Why was that?
Um, that's a great question. I think some of it was it was so early. I mean, yeah, we'd had people in there since 2002, but like if you're in Bagram, and I do remember this. So in Bagram on Disney Drive, there was a time there. My team initially got slapped with AST duty for like the first month we were there. So for your listeners, AST, I think that stands for Area Support Team. Essentially, you're the LNO for some teams downrange to the headquarters. So we got stuck there for a little bit, and put a pin in there because I was pissed about it at the time, but I'm really glad it happened. But there were so many O6s and E9s flying in for positions that didn't even exist just so they could get their combat patch for being at Bagram Airfield at the time. It was just suffocating in brass. And then you've got this dude that I would slap on a pair of jeans and an FDNY sweatshirt, which I had because I did my paramedic internship with FDNY in the 18 Delta course right before the towers came down. And I'm tooting down the Disney Drive on a ATV. We always know where you are, always look cool, right? I look cool, and people paid some deference to that. As time went on, you couldn't get away with that as much because people might just think you were a contractor, and oftentimes it was. But I could sit back and forth.
Okay. So how do we go from, and I hope you can understand what I'm saying here. I think you will. How do we go from, oh, this special forces, they know what they're doing, they can handle it, to later, I come in 2011, and I think I know why this happened, but I'll see what your take is. We lost a lot of credibility with regular Army units. Not that we weren't capable, it's that they just didn't like us. What happened there?
Some of it was us being cowboys in I had this terrible team leader that ended up getting fired, but I do remember one thing he said that was of value, and that's rapport starts at home. As Green Berets, we are trained and tested to build and maintain rapport with a potentially hostile force. That's the whole point of Robin Sage, is to infiltrate, build rapport, and conduct actions by, with, and through a resistance force who may be resistant to us, right? We suck at doing that with our own people because we have this, and it starts with some elitism. Like, nobody wants to be LA. Nobody wants to be conventional. That's why guys get out of conventional and go soft. That's where they go SF. But then we've got an uplift, or we've got a battle space owner that has a sergeant major that is all about haircuts and blouse boots. And then you've got these cowboys driving ATVs everywhere, doing whatever they want, wearing t-shirts, growing beards. It's everything that the conventional side hates. And that's where some of the headbutting comes in. I remember I recruited one of my best friends for my team in Blackwater to SF, and eventually he became my senior echo. We started off on a low vis team with the State Department way back in the day. Still good friends to this day. But I remember I had to hem him up one day when we were at a range in North Fort because, and this is something, it seems so stupid, especially to civilians or other SF guys, but he's wearing his gray Patagonia rain jacket, right? And it's unzipped, but we are sharing a range with a bunch of conventionals. And it's not just we're sharing it. I have asked them very kindly to just let us have the end of it in exchange for, maybe giving them some flat range training. But reading the room, I could feel that unit that owned the range was very 670-1. And so I had to hem up one of my best friends, like, hey, zip your coat up. And he's like, really? Like, yeah, motherfucker, zip it up. Like, know where you're at.
Some things we have to be told. I just had this conversation with somebody right before you jumped on, is we know, and then somebody has to tell us. And then we're just like, because we're resistant first off, right away we go, what do you mean? And we go, because we're still in the fucking army,
I am not the 670-1 sergeant major.
No, I know, but you have to, I mean, you have to sometimes.
I violate every time I'm in uniform because I'm a firm believer that there is no such thing as an Army regulation mustache. It doesn't exist. You can either be a white supremacist or you can be out of regs. That's it. So yeah, when I shave up and I put a uniform on, I mean, you can look at my last Instagram posts. I mean, my AGSU's pushing my grandpa around at Pearl Harbor, but
hey,
it's there.
First Sergeant Alvarez, he had his mustache was legendary at first group. And that guy, oof, God. So
yeah, but that is not going to hurt the mission of anything that I'm doing or that guys underneath me are doing. In fact, I don't have anybody underneath me right now, so that helps a lot because I'm mid-boarding. But just going back to your question of what stopped that, we never embraced that we have to build rapport at home. That the first guerrilla force we have wears a U.S. Army name tag. You've got to build rapport with those guys, even if you hate everything about how they do things. You got to do it.
Yep. We, as you said, number one, our worst enemy is us. First with infighting, and second, I have quite a few points of how we got to really where we are now. There was the changes in the course. There was a section from 2012, 2019 that ruined a lot of people's lives for no reason. IUW, or as we just kind of refer to it now, is like a second selection to get into the course after you already PCS there. And dudes were just getting dropped on week one. For a new thing that went on.
Tell
me
about that, because that's
you don't know what IUW is?
No.
All right, in 2012, 13-ish till about 2018, 19, they had IUW, Introduction to Unconventional Warfare. In the earliest years, they had the worst cadre, not all of the cadre, but the 3 worst cadre in SWIC were working IUW. They're all legendary. And they all went their way after IUW. And if people that graduated with me, they know exactly who I'm talking about. But anyway, so IUW consisted of, they were just throwing stuff together in the beginning. But when I went through in 13 and 14, you had to do all of the gates again and land nav. And all the gates were back one day after another. And then you would have land nav. So if you didn't get dropped through any of the gates, you went out to land nav, and then there was probably an 80% chance that you were going to get recycled or dropped at land nav. And that's how it went, man. They set up a 12-mile ruck with no med support, and there were just bodies all along the road on the last mile just dudes just dropping over. It was the worst days of summer with no and anything, and they're just medics are going in. Medics that have now just come out of SFMS are just on detail giving dudes IVs, trying to keep them alive and shit. So the Deltas who just finished got rolled right into these gates, and they're just dropping them or recycling them with a 12-mile ruck. These guys haven't done PT. They're
Right.
trying to study. And so they graduate. They came right over to IUW and went to a 12-mile ruck and failed. There was a big group of Deltas that failed right away because they just didn't have time. I believe they didn't have time because there was no break. There was a weekend in between them graduating and them starting IUW. You can say, oh, you got to keep your PT up, but you went through the Delta course as well. Towards the
Yeah.
end, there's no time. There's no.
No, it's crazy. There's sleep debt. You're going to college while keeping. It's
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's meant to mimic like being in a resident program. It is nuts.
So I say this because dudes are PCSing from all over the country to start the Q course, to start phase 1, which is SUT, right? Well, now they get there and they're like, oh, you got to do selection again. And it starts tomorrow, right? And they've been on 30 days of leave. They're just checking in. It's even crazier in reality than what I'm describing it as. But people that did it are like, oof, that sucked. I can't believe I got
It's
through it.
one thing to do that as a slap in the face wake up call. Welcome to the Q course. It's another thing to make it a gate when
Oh yeah, it was hard
you're
gates.
just starting out. And
Yeah. So,
that's interesting.
so dudes were getting wood chippered, just sent back, dropped from the course or injured. But so then we get all the gates done, right? That's one thing. We go out to the NTA, and it was a fucking bloodbath, man. If the cycle before mine and the cycle after mine, the cadre smoked the living shit out of the guys until it was time to set them off. And then they all went out and like fucking failed. So my class didn't have that happen. So we had a slightly higher pass rate, 70 dudes out of 250 passed. But the class before and the class after, they were talking about how badly they got the shit smoked out of them before they got released.
Those are SFAS numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of dudes just kept getting recycled. They said if you got all 5 points the first night, you got to go home. So 50 of us passed the first night out of 250 and 20 passed the second night.
And what was the land nav? Was it the star course again?
You had to get 5 points. You had to make a star, and I probably walked, I don't know, 20K, something like that.
Sounds about right.
And my routes weren't that awful bad. I had to cut around one lake was the hardest thing that I had to do. But there were dudes that came back. They'd been to battle, just rips in the face, uniforms ripped open. Mine wasn't. It was just really fucking long. I went from the bottom to the top, back to the bottom, back to the top, back to the starting point.
Yeah.
But we weren't out at Hoffman. We were at the NTA on Bragg. And because Hoffman's easy. SFAS land, that was easy. That was easy. I went 8 for 8. I thought that was pretty easy. I didn't get wet. I found all my points with plenty of time. Not the NTA. It was much, much more difficult. And so anyway, this is at the beginning of the course for those years, and they're just dropping all of these dudes that 100% would have graduated. They're just dropping them right away and just sending them to the 82nd or sending them off their other units and things like that. So that's one thing that happened for a while, and we created all these anti-ambassadors to special forces, right? And we sent them back to the regular army. And these dudes now hate SF for what they did to their career. But another point that I have is it's too easy to get to selection. It's too easy to even get there because there's a percentage of dudes that get to selection and they quit the first day because they just didn't want to they wanted 2 weeks away from their unit. So they get out there and they come back and they make up stories about how they got fucked and shit, like they go back and whatever they go. There's, as you said, with this narrative of we're our own worst enemy. Well, there's some things that we have to do to keep our numbers going that have led to something about us, about special forces that isn't true. in the regular army. It's completely made up by people. But that dropping guys and things like that, right when the course started, that was a real thing. That created a lot of anti-ambassadors for special forces in the early 2010s.
That's just wild. I mean, there's the old cliche of, selection is every day or whatever. It's an ongoing process. I just don't understand from a strength management point what the point was in having guys go to selection, PCS, and then go through selection again. Because the Q course over the years, and I got this from the sergeant major that was running selection a few years ago. Start to finish, the entire Q course, including selection, has a percent success rate.
I don't know if
And
we're
that's,
allowed to say that.
well, you can bleep it if you want, but I mean, it doesn't really change anything. Guys are going to quit. If they're going to quit, guys are going to perceive that, that isn't with actually cutting people. That's just through self-attrition, injury, skill attrition, everything. That's about where it's at. And it doesn't really matter the injects that cadre do. It really doesn't change that percentage that much over the years. So I'm wondering why, what the decision process was in having that what was called IUW?
Introduction to Unconventional Warfare. We had some classes. We had a nutrition brief the nutrition brief was so atrocious that we got told to stop heckling the presenter because almost everything they were saying was incorrect. So we got yelled at that we were giving this woman who was trying to tell us about protein and building muscle and recovery. And there's professional athletes in the audience, and
Right.
there were nutritionists in the audience. They're going, "Hey, that's not true. That's not true." And like, they're correcting her. And it was really embarrassing. I'm sure that person still talks about how we were awful to them.
Yeah, that never goes over well. So when I was in the 18 Delta course, during the veterinary medicine block, we went out to the Fort Bragg stables, which no longer exists, unfortunately. But our vet was not a large animal vet. He was a small animal vet. And I watched him try to instruct our class on how to pick up a horse's foot and clean it. And another unique thing about my career is that I used to ride horses for the Army before I was SF. I was in the 1st Cav in the Horse Cavalry Detachment for most of my conventional time. And part of the reason I went to selection is because I got screwed out of Oklahoma Farrier College. I had been enlisted to go to Oklahoma Farrier College because we did our own shoeing and everything else out there. And I got shafted out of it for one reason or another. So I was a farrier apprentice in the Army, and I'm watching this small animal vet show some techniques that are going to get somebody hurt, particularly on the hind leg.
Kick the fuck out of him.
Yeah, like there are some things that he did that day that I would have literally been beat with a rasp if I had done, because there was a lot of hazing when I was in the horse detachment. So I just said, "Sir, do you mind if I show you something?" And I took over his class. The written veterinary exam is one of the easiest in SFMS, traditionally. It is not a hard exam. It is the only written test that I ever failed. There's no way. So you gotta, even when you're seeing something, if you're a student status, you gotta remember that you don't have human rights as a student.
No.
Because that will come back on you.
No, it's yeah, because the problem is always people, right? the coursework and the books. Those are not people. It's the application and the teaching part. You can upset an instructor, and that can end your career pretty quickly.
Yep.
If you say or do the wrong things that they don't approve of. But anyway, so to wrap this all up into a thing, right? Not to bash the course, but from 2001 to 2020-ish. Then COVID happens, and then fucking everything changes. And so in that 20-year block, we have this just yo-yo of policies and the way we train and the way we do the course. And it's supposed to be based on this rigid framework that we don't mass produce soft. There's no substitute, all these other things, right? Capability over quantity and blah, blah, blah. So it's supposed to be like that, but that's not what the requirement was. The requirement was we're going to keep using special forces as a fucking hammer, and they get up and up and up the ante and up the ante. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Well, we need people to support that. And so it's this changing of things, and we're going to add this. No, we have too many people. Let's add another barrier to entry. So I don't know what's going on at the top level to get down to the bottom level, but I guarantee the intent was not what was actually put into application. So, and you would just know that from psychological operations, from the news cycle, from the way just information travels in the telephone game. Somebody writes something on a memo, that doesn't mean that somebody's going to interpret it correctly when it gets down to the tax or the company sergeant major that's like, we need to make this new program, right? So let's get it down there. So I don't know. I don't have all that information about why those things are, but man, it's an interesting road with a great demand over 20 years. And then we get to where we are now. And, what did we have? Also at that time, you can't have a social media profile. Oh, wait, shit. You do need to have a social media profile. Oh, no, you can't post that stuff. You need to have a bland social media profile. Oh, shit. We need to have a social media policy. Oh, nobody can interpret it. So now we got all these, it's very yo-yo-y type of society with technology and the way it's been rolling on and things like that. So, God, no wonder people are confused, and the older generation doesn't understand the new generation.
Right.
It's kind of.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of read the Harvard Business Review paper on the difference between leaders and managers?
No, what do you got a cliff notes for me?
Yeah, I'll just sum it up in like one sentence. The difference is you can be both, but the difference is leaders are change agents. Managers are managing. They're managing a process. Basically, things are coming down and they're implementing them. Leaders implement change. And this is, pretty well known. So I won't go into it too much, but really what I see in like regimental leadership, it is far too conventional. We have this entire pipeline to make. I'm just going to loosely use the term operator because it is so much more than being a soldier. And it's not just an unconventional soldier, because we have to be proficient in door kicking as well. We have to be able to, I would say within 1 or 2 rehearsals, be able to conduct direct action mission, or be able to do some sort of UW infill, or you just go down the other tenets of what we do, right? Without digging into it too much. It isn't possible to stay green on all those tasks at any given time. There's just not enough time in any kind of training cycle, even with an unlimited budget. There's not enough time. So you have to really focus on what that is. Where that doesn't meet up with the Army's management system is an officer comes in and he's got 2 years to make his mark at any given level before he moves on to the next thing. And I don't think anybody, at least I hope not, I would say 90% of the officers that get into special forces do not do it so that they can be a general someday. They do it because they want to be a Green Beret on a team. And if they get a team and they only do 18 to 24 months of team time before they go into PowerPoint land in the 3 shop, they're never really getting the SF experience. All they're really doing is just enough to let them think they know what's going on so they can help shape policy in the future. So we're binding ourselves there. So, but that keeps going up. Once you get to company command time, let's say, that shit hot 18 alpha competes and is selected for company command. He's only got 2 years and he better do something or he's not going to be competitive for battalion command. Same thing with the BCs. He's only got 2 years and he better make his mark or he's not be competitive for group or whatever 06 command is out there. It's good that we've got a branch. And a lot of the old guys will say that SF died as soon as we became a branch. It's good that we have a branch. But I think one of the coolest things that's happened in our branch is that an 18 alpha can resign his commission and go to a warrant officer course. And I've seen that a few times. I think that's awesome.
I got a couple page associates of pages I work with on some memes and stuff. I go, he said he made 404 and he said, fuck this. And then he pinned W2.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Awesome. I mean, he's going to get penalized financially when
he said he gets to retire as an 04.
Yeah, but he won't, if you look at the pay difference between an 05 and say an 04, it's different. So there is there's
as well as I do, memories are a lot better than money.
They are, until you're trying to buy a house, especially in the Pacific Northwest. Well, I'm saying there's a trade-off, and that career track needs to change within the regiment. There's no reason we can't have a captain on a team for 3 years, even if he makes 04. Who cares if he makes 04 on a team? So what? That actually makes him more effective downrange because he's going to have more clout with whoever it is his partner is downrange. Working from RSOC, they've got 04 team leaders. So what? So let me jump over to another soapbox. Why is it in the Special Forces Regiment, everything on the rank structure is multiplied until you get to battalion command? A normal company command in the Army is an 03, is a captain. In SF, it's an 04. We've got a company sergeant major instead of a first sergeant. But once you get up to the battalion command level, it's the exact same. We've got an 05 and probably a brand new CSM. Why don't we just get rid of battalions and make something else and have an 06 command and then put a GO in charge of group? So Jeff,
I will come back at you with this. You're probably going to want to drop pull back your retirement packet if you want to actually implement any of these changes. And
third soapbox. What I did not foresee at the E9 level is the level of politics and backdoor dealings and.
What do you mean you didn't foresee any of the politics? It's talked about your entire career about that it all becomes political once you get to the desk.
I chose not to see that. I became an E9 because I saw who else could take it and I wanted to make sure that I took care of the boys. And I did that the best I could. And I turned down CSM twice because I didn't think it was right for one. Well, the first time I didn't think it was right for the unit because I got offered a battalion. And the second time it wasn't right for my family because it would have been 3 deployments back to back if I had taken that CSM position and used that. And then, new people came in and I wasn't the bright shining star that I was to the previous people. So it never happened, which is fine because there's no E10, it's once we retire, it doesn't really matter.
Sure, there's not. Sure, there's no E10. All right. So all this information, right? All of these, we've brought up all of these negatives. So how, because you started out, all the information that you put out as a quiet professional, Now, how do you take all of those things
You
and
mean
now, and now, yeah, a professional, and now use that to help, to influence, because I'm very aware that people listen to everything I put out, and you got to be careful with what you say. So now we got all these things. Oh, I would do this, I would do that, I would change this. But how do you put that into a manner where people be like, oh, I never thought of it that way? Instead of they're just hear people going, well, back in my day, this sucked and we should do it this way. So now how do you make bring somebody actually listen to your argument and listen to the things you say? Because the future First Special Forces Command, the guy that's going to be doing it in 20 years, the CSM, is listening to a podcast or a reel with the guys that are in charge now and saying what they would do later on. And that information is not going to go away because that dude's fucking real smart, you know? He doesn't know he's going to be the one SFC commander yet or sergeant major, but he's going to be.
the most lethal and malleable, not malleable in a pejorative sense, but flexible, operationally flexible element within the Special Forces Regiment is the ODA. And if anything that does not focus on making the capabilities of the ODA better is secondary. And in order to build an ODA, you have to have good people. So I think the POTUF program is great, but I also think it's a lot of lip service. I've said on numerous podcasts that we have to encourage mental health, not just talk about it, but actually encourage it. And that needs to start at the command level. I think commanders need to start going to therapy and counseling throughout. And these are just different points, right? This isn't the end all be all. But within, I think we need to focus less on cool toys and more on cool people. If there's something that's genuinely going to help the capability of ODA, then yeah, let's get it to them and let's field it quick. But man, like we spend a lot of money and effort on testing new things and getting it to the team, and then it's at the team for 6 months and we've got something else. It's not really that important at the end of the day, because guys need to be able to shoot, move, communicate, and medicate. And if it's outside of that, if it's outside of that capability, I don't know how important it is. We need to trust our teams. We need to stop limiting them. We need to stop badge protecting. You think about how many jumps SMUs have done into hostile areas. It's a normal infill platform. For some reason, free fall is just a school in our ranks. When's the last time anybody from the white side SOF actually jumped in anywhere to do anything?
Other than training?
Yeah.
Oh,
But
you
I
would know
can
much
tell
better
you,
than I
it's
would.
more of a rhetorical question because I can't think of one. And maybe it is out there.
I know the statistics on all of the combat dive infills we've ever done.
What's that, 0?
It's 0.
Yeah. So why are we focusing so much on this if we're not going to let guys use it? You know, we've got such a risk adverse.
I say the same thing about dive.
Like, I mean, I will say, and it's no hate on combat divers, because I was a team sergeant on a dive team, even though I wasn't dive qualified. I didn't focus on it because I told my team, we're not doing any dive ops in the Kunai River. If you want to train up and go to dive school, I will absolutely do everything for you to get there. But our focus is Afghanistan right now. So I was just trying to be pragmatic about the whole thing. It's not that I never trained up for it. It's just I shifted my focus. But if we're not going to let guys do it, then why are we expending time and energy on it when we've got such a broad range of skills that we have to stay not current, but exceptional on. It's, I That's not an argument to make it go away. It's an argument like, if we're going to invest in it, then stop saying no on con-ops.
Okay.
Let the guys do it.
I think a lot of that, as I said earlier, we can we do this? Yeah, I can do. Can you do this? Yep, yep, we can do that. Sergeant Major. Yeah, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Yep, I need you guys to do this. Yep, we can do that. There's never no. We do not say no to anything. It's oh yeah, I can get that done. I can do that mission. I can go on that tasking. I can go on that detail. Yeah, let me go to that school. I'm gonna do that. And it's at every level. Everybody who's in charge. Yeah, we can do that. And then, but if you say yes to everything, you you're going to be deficient at something else. And that's our whole thing. And now the mission requirements and the technology and all this stuff, we're always connected. We can always do something. You're always able to be contacted. You're always available. And I think it's just a snowball of how things are going and to where we are now. We are task saturated. And because it's not that we always said yes in the past, but there weren't as many opportunities to say yes. There's so many opportunities to say yes now. Oh yeah, I can do that. I can do this. We can do that too. I can take care of that. So whereas I saw as the tasking NCO, right? Oh man, how the fuck are we going to fill these? You know? And they always get filled. Everything always get filled. And if it didn't, it got kicked to the other battalion and they filled it, or then it went to another group and they filled it too. Everything always got filled, right? And it's unsustainable to
It
do
is.
everything all the time for everybody. Um, that's why we have specialized teams. But now we're seeing um, we ghosted one team in every company throughout the regiment because we're not able to fill the companies. So Manning's down, and we just can't. We can't keep up the output. Although I am hearing from active duty guys that nothing has changed. So that's not good either.
Yeah. Some of that's driven by budgets, between the branches. Like, why does let me pick on AFSOC for a second. AFSOC is way too big. There's a lot of people in AFSOC that have nothing to do with special operations at all. Like, if you were a fueler or a maintainer on a Talon or a Spectre, what does that have to do with special operations? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely
Come
nothing.
on.
And yet you're going to compete. You're going to go up the ranks, and you're going to competing with other actual special operations people for senior spots. Somebody needs to get them under control. There was a particular general that was the SOC Corps commander who in his bio had the number of drone hours he had. What does that have to do with conducting any kind of special operations that I know about? It's nuts. Where I was going with that is they've got that special reconnaissance guy now, and it could end up being a very good thing. It could be. But the whole reason it came about was because they realized that we didn't really need a combat weatherman anymore. The para weathermen, the Gray Berets. I don't know if you ever worked with any of those guys, but they usually just end up filling a slot in the jock somewhere because we can get our weather from the internet. We don't really need them to send up a balloon like they do on the commercials. Yeah.
The
I don't know if you
SOW T's, right?
yeah.
SOWTs.
Yeah. It everybody knew that they're obsolete, but rather than just making it go away, they just rebranded them to be special reconnaissance. That is one of our core missions is special reconnaissance. Why do we need a whole dude from another branch that's specializing in special reconnaissance? Where? Why?
I don't know. There's a need somewhere, and somebody created something to fill a need where they saw it on the information that they had.
On the plus side, there's always going to be a shortage of special operations guys, capable special operations guys to do things. And one of the weaknesses of Green Berets is also its strength in that we don't particularly specialize in one thing. We are really good at a lot of things. We're very rarely an expert at one thing. We're experts at being good at a lot of things. That's what we're an expert at. That's a strength in our flexibility, in that when somebody says, "Can you do this?" we can say, "Yeah," and then go train up on it real quick, or knock the dust off, and be good at it. Be better than most at it. And that comes down to the strength of the guys we've got on teams. But that doesn't mean we need a specialized dude. I mean, it's not just SF. I mean, the Rangers have RRD. There's plenty of reconnaissance out there. There's Force Recon and the Marines. Why are we developing a whole brand new person in pipeline to do something that is already pretty well seated throughout SOCOM? And it's a rhetorical question because I know the answer. It's about money and having a seat at the table. So that kind of goes up to that whole policy thing. I don't know that it's good to have. I don't know that I don't know how beneficial it is to have AFSOC, MARSOC, USASOC, NAVSPEC, War, whatever. They always do their acronyms weird. When we've got a SOCOM over everything, what if once you entered into the special operations world, you were just in SOCOM? That's it. Because increasingly, we are working more and more in joint environments. So why not just have joint command? I mean, we've kind of started with the JSOW, right? You've got all these people from different branches going to an E9 academy at SOCOM, which is great. But a lot of those people are straight up support. They don't really need to be taking up that slot. There's 18 Zulus that are not getting the slots because some maintainer from AFSOC is in that slot. Just because AFSOC gets so many slots, USASOC gets so many slots.
You got to stay in and fix some of these things, man, if you're pointing all this stuff out.
I can do so much more as Mr. Symank than Sergeant Major Symank. As
What
Sergeant
can you
Major
do?
Symank,
What can you
if
do
I say
more as
something to Sergeant Major Symank, I've got other E9s or people in a 3 shop somewhere, whatever, that are like, oh, that guy, dude, I used to get shit on backdoor because I worked at Black Rifle. I had a CSM once that held me back a little bit because he equated my social media presence to Tim Kennedy, which is not even close. Tim and I know each other, but bro, I'm holding steady at 19,000 followers, and that hasn't changed in like 3 years because I really don't post that much. It's there's a people at senior level start to look at what your ulterior motive is and what's in it for you, instead of just taking the idea and saying, yeah, that's a good idea. How do we implement? One of the coolest things that I had that was so quick to affect anything was I was on an exercise in Hawaii at Camp Smith. I was the night operations sergeant major for this exercise in the TSOC, Theater Special Operations Command, for people listening. And a particular element of your old group had inserted themselves without permission into the exercise. And everybody just kind of had to react, which was really odd. But that particular element really wanted to be the hammer on a nail where we needed tweezers. Does that make any sense, or am I being too metaphorical? The CRIF wanted to do a very complex direct action hit in a civilian area, and the civilian area said, hell no. That's what I'm getting at. We had to pick up one dude, and they only knew how to smash and grab. Well, I came from more of a clandestine community, and I said, sir, we've got the pattern of life. Why don't we just, I won't use the term, but why don't we just grab him? Because we've got other elements at play here that know how to do this. And he just snapped and pointed at me, and that's what ended up happening. That was the solution. but everybody wants a seat at the table and everybody wants to do their thing.
As you said 14 minutes ago, you said everybody's got to make an impact also in the time that they're there. So if you only get one opportunity to make an impact at your one view in front of people during a training exercise, because con ops take a long time or risk assessments take a long time to get approved, or funding or budgeting, then hey, this is our only shot to shine. Then maybe, hey, if I don't demonstrate my capabilities, am I going to not get more money next year? Are we not going to have these guys? And I need to send these guys to these schools to maintain capability. I got to show what I can do, and this is my shot to do it. And then but it takes somebody going, hey, this is the right way to do things here. This is our best option. You go, yeah, you're right. Or they're not willing to listen to you and go, no, it's I'm in control here. So again, we're people, and we go with, you don't have all the information that that person has, and you don't have the career track or the view of what they need to get done as well. So but I think that part, the perspective of what other people are going through and what is happening in their lives, that's probably the most important part of that leadership role in special forces. And knowing who you're working with is like, man, if I can just get inside this guy's head and see what he's seeing, I'll bet we can come to an agreement here. But instead, it's oftentimes we're like, we just need a fucking, let's just pull out the hammer and smash it. But it takes time. I now at this age, like, we can work, yeah, we can work this out and come to an agreement here and things like that. But I would be leaving a team now at this age if I would have stayed. There would be no more of me on a team. It'd be other guys would be staying there, and they're making those things now too. And so now I go to how do we help with all this information, right? Is I realize, and I'm in a position to where maybe people listen to me, maybe they just get my clippets or snips, right? I'll go, hey guys, there's a lot better way to go about things than to just fucking hammer and a nail, as you said, right? To bash the shit out of things, to always use your ACH as a helmet, as a hammer, right? So
People will always take the path of least resistance to a solution, and that path is what they're most comfortable with. And I'm paraphrasing something a retired SFGO said on my intelligence job that I was on, when I say that. But if you've got a team that's specialized in something, they're going to find the solution that's within that specialization.
yeah,
And that kind of
bias.
makes
You're
sense.
always looking for it's like investigation, right?
Yeah.
If you think you know what happened,
if you're a team
going to find a
sergeant,
way to get there. Yeah.
yeah. Right. Yeah. And if you're a team sergeant, you're going to find the most logical, you're going to present all the reasons why it's your team that should have that mission. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. In the bigger picture, the solution is not confining what we can do by our own rules at the policy level. There was I was casually talking to a one-star at somebody's retirement ceremony. I don't remember the specifics about what the problem was, but I presented a solution, and the reason he had his aide with him, and what it got shot down over, the pushback against the solution I presented was something within policy at the USASOC level. But we'll change the policy. That's not, I mean, you look at why the policy was made in the first place, and if it doesn't apply anymore, if it's outdated, just change the policy. Why are we limiting ourselves by our own rules? Because nobody else does that, right? I mean, whether it's other people, other elements within the SOCOM enterprise, or our partners, or God forbid, our enemies, they don't really give a shit about what our policies are unless they're really read up on them and they know how to manipulate them to limit us. We need to be more flexible in what we do. Just because some major wrote a policy once and a general signed off on it does not mean that's the way it is forever. The strength, I said this before, the strength of the Special Forces Regiment is the team and its flexibility. We cannot, that team loses that strength if at the decider level and the policy level, we don't have that same flexibility. We have rigidity. I think the biggest thing we've got hurting us again is officers are in place and they look at those policies as their constraints and restraints instead of uh how can we either skirt that or how can we is that policy even relevant anymore? Do we need to change that? We're not going to. The Army is a big machine, and we focus on weird things in peacetime. And this technically is peacetime, despite there being worldwide kinetic actions, especially in the last couple of weeks. Most people are not in the soft enterprise are not affected by that. And I've served under four presidents with five. I've served under five administrations with wildly different goals and policies. Um, what I've seen is we when the directive is to pull things back, command starts focusing on dumb things that have more to do with policy and check the blocks. When we're more aggressive, things are more dangerous, but that's the time to be in soft. That's when you can get things done. That's when you can really shine. We're never going to change the career culture of checking blocks and getting a pat on the head so you get promoted. That's not going to change because the Army is a career. SOF is a career. That's never going to change. We have to accept that. But we can change the culture of risk and gatekeeping, automatically saying no, no being the default answer. All that can change. We have to respect why guys got into SOF in the first place. And it wasn't to fill out a con op and have 10 different levels of risk mitigation.
How does that translate into the upcoming modern era then, where we don't know how things are going to be, and all of the institutional knowledge is basically the global war on terror, and things are changing very, very, very quickly now with
How
how
do
we
we
do
streamline
things.
the yes? I mean, information is flowing faster than ever. The approval processes for things need to match that. I think that comes in two ways. I think one, our leaders need to be constantly educated, and I don't mean like institute another level of NCOES or Command of War Staff College. I think that they just need to be educated more like AWG did it. They were designed specifically to circumvent the slow plotting process in which things came down to conventional units to change things for increased survivability or increased lethality. That was their strength. That's what they did. And they came half from SMUs and half from contract. I'm probably jacking up those numbers, but it doesn't really matter. The intent is the same. Within SOCOM, we need to move faster as an enterprise, not just at the SMU level. We need to move faster. We need to move with less bureaucracy.
Okay. So you said earlier, you're going to have much more or much greater ability to affect change as Mr. Symack. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
Um, I mean, look, I'm just an E9 and I'm just in the guard. Uh, I'm just a guy on social media. You know, there's all these just a things.
You say that, but
There's
you do
things
have
for
ability.
reason.
You
Yeah,
do
but
have
there's
ability to
reasons for people
influence
not
anybody
to
you talk
listen.
to.
And by the way, the last CSM position that I was going to pick up, the reason I don't have it is because I self-selected. Like I was I was struggling big time mental health, and I went into a inpatient treatment program. People applaud that on the surface, but they do not want that guy to be a CSM. And that same thing happened in first group. Don't say him by name, but you know who I'm talking about.
I know.
Um, so when we talk about being able to affect change, you're right. People are going to listen to this and they might pick up tidbits. But if I was standing here in uniform, and I'm guilty of this myself, if I was sitting here in uniform saying the same thing, people would be looking at what's on my chest or my right sleeve or my mustache or all these other detractors to establish my credibility behind what I'm saying. If I'm Mr. Symank, they're not doing that. They're looking at like, well, he was a sergeant major, not, oh, what's he trying to be the sergeant major of?
Okay. So what is, because you only get so many focuses. I get to focus on a whole lot of shit. You know, I can jump around because lesser known operators, I can make anything an operator, right? But you've got a specific career path that's exposed you to a lot of these things, and a lot of these points you've picked up took a long time to come to some of these conclusions of, you know, a whole deployment, a whole promotion cycle, a whole time on a team, and then staff time, which that goes by, and 1 year is equal to 30,000 years on Earth on staff. So, so what are you going to do as Mr. Symack with all that information to affect change, or to to help with the population? Because that's one thing, is you got to make stuff or put out things that help at the root of it, and not add to the infighting and the bickering and the
Yeah,
fucking bad
sure.
image that our some of our associates have made, and I try to avoid.
So the first thing I'm doing is I'm focusing on me. There's a lot of things I would like to do right now, but I just don't have room on my plate. And I recognize that because I take on one more thing, everything that I'm trying to do suffers. So I'm in the tail end of a med board right now. I have to get that finished. I have to get my VA claim finished because if I don't get that 100, then my kid doesn't go to school for free in state, right? I've got to focus on those things. And, I mentioned that I did inpatient. Just because you went and did therapy once doesn't mean you're all better forever. That's a maintaining thing. So there's a lot of things I've neglected for myself, whether out of avoidance or uh, focusing on the mission, that need to be focused on now. So I will blatantly say that the regiment is not my focus right now. It isn't. The guys are not my focus, and it's difficult to say that because that's been my mission. You know, I I define success as especially as a sergeant major in SF. I define success there. Are my guys better off now than they were? Are their families better? Do they have better opportunities than they did before I came in? Those were my benchmarks that I kind of set for myself. Um, it didn't really have anything to do with the command. It had to do with people on the team because the commander has all of that stress of what his commander's telling him to do. If nobody's taking care of the dudes that have to do those missions, then there's no mission. So, but I focused on that a lot, and some of it may have been so I didn't have to worry about myself so much. And there's a certain amount of righteousness to that. But I paid the price for neglecting myself and neglecting my family. I tell people a lot that you've got to put when the plane's going down, you've got to put your mask on first before you help anybody else. I wasn't doing that. So I'm focusing on that, and I'm not there. There's not like a, all right, I'm good. Now let's focus on everybody else. That's gonna be an ongoing thing. There's got to be a balance. But what I would really like to do, I'm over the last 4 or 5 years, I've come to be really tight with a lot of nonprofit organizations, and I've seen some bad actors, and I've seen a lot of great actors. And in my role, my first real civilian job at Black Rifle, I was the charitable giving manager and the director of their in-house nonprofit when they stood it up originally. And I made a lot of good connections there, and I was able to affect a lot of things that took care of the boys and their families through that. But I would like to continue doing that, and I am doing that. I'm doing even right now. I'm doing a little bit of marketing on the side, helping out um, some nonprofits, getting them funded through various ways. Uh, but if you're asking what I want to do when I grow up, I'm not entirely sure because I'm so focused on getting this chapter of my life closed. I want to continue writing. I want to continue helping people, but I want to be a better human as well.
You know,
And so
somebody asked, yeah.
it's the Green
So,
Beret thing, right? I can be exceptional at a lot of things, but I don't think I'm going to be uh, the best at anything.
somebody asked me the other day, what's your elevator pitch for me? Because I have to sell lesser known operators as a brand, as a business, as a way to help people, as a resource for folks. What is, because eventually, and in the past, what am I about? What is the whole plan for lesser known operators? And then it's myself, because I'm the person, I'm the only person that works here. And that question's really stuck with me. It's like, what's my story? What's my thing? What do I bring to the table? Well, it's kind of that's kind of a workaround that I've made, right? It's everybody else. I bring everybody else to the table of lesser known operators. There's a lot of cool people that do a lot of cool shit. Nonprofits, fundraisers, resources, caseworkers, case officers, Gold Star widows, things like that, right? There's a lot of shit going on. I don't know anything about special forces. I know my path and then stories of people that have told me their path. And I didn't walk theirs, I walked mine. We don't know anything about the job we even did, you know? So that's one thing I would say as you get out and you go out is the uniform gets set behind is what is my elevator pitch to people? What is my first and strongest soapbox that I have to stand on going forward when people ask me what I'm all about? And then I build off of that. And I'm seeing ways that I'm having to go. People decisions other people make are pushing me certain directions. I am a firm believer we need to talk openly and not in the shadows as if it's a sickness about suicide and
Hmm.
bring it up every time it happens. That's very difficult to do. But to get better at doing something, you have to get better at doing it by doing it. So I'm pushing myself that direction. So I'd ask you the same thing. So what is going to be what is, when I say that, what's your elevator pitch? What is the strongest thing that you think you'll build off of going forward?
I would like to change. It's honestly, I hate to use a staff term, but I'm going to dovetail off your horse blanket. Um,
What the
I
fuck did, pause for a second. What the fuck did you just say?
dovetail off your horse blanket. I just wanted to say some staff officer words.
Dovetail. Off
You
your
writing that one down?
horse blanket. All right.
I
First
would
off, never say that again. And thank you. I didn't know that.
like to change the culture of mental health within the SOCOM enterprise, not just the Special Forces Regiment, because again, I think the future is joint. Uh, I think, and there's really two prongs here that the need to be affected, the need to change. We already push. We've got the mechanisms to better mental health. We've got the Special Forces Trust with Beyond the Battlefield, which is completely anonymous. We've got All Secure Foundation, which is also completely anonymous, and those have credibility within the command. But why does it have to be anonymous? Nobody's really addressing that. Why does it have to be anonymous? It has to be anonymous because when you fill out your SF-86, they're going to ask about your counseling. And if you've had marriage counseling, that's fine because they recognize that if with our op tempo, if you haven't had marriage counseling, you probably haven't been doing anything. But uh, but if you disclose that you went and talked to somebody because you whatever it was you saw over the last 10 to 15 years is really starting to affect you and you want to get some help for it, holy fuck, that's a red flag. Why is that a red flag? Why? Why is that a red flag? Because
Especially
that
when we
culture has
recruit,
to change.
especially when we recruit people that are giant red flags.
Yes,
I'm not saying all. Somebody shit on me once because I said that. I'm not saying all. It's just what I hear from case managers. We recruit a certain type of people that have had a rough life, and
it's
when
true.
you recruit people that have had a rough life, and then you introduce them to a horrific event, that makes it worse.
The program that I went to, uh, when I went there, it wasn't because of the program. It was because they paired me with a very specific social worker whose dad was in special operations and had a history of working with people like us. That's why I was in that specific program in the Army. She told me, um, because I was sexually abused as a kid and I never dealt with it. I just kind of chalked it up. Well, that happened, whatever. Uh, it, it came out a lot in my therapy. I just kept brushed it aside, but it turned out that that was part of the reasons that led to other decisions and blah, blah, blah. It had, it had an effect on things I did throughout my life. She told me that there is a very high percentage of our population that were abused children. And a lot of that is because we were not be nobody was there to protect us when we were kids. And so we start assuming protector roles when we're adults. That was mind blowing, man. And nobody talks about that because we don't want to talk about our own shit. Nobody wants to talk about, especially getting touched by a dude when you're 6 years old. That's not team room talk. And I'm not saying it
No,
needs to be.
only as joking, but I've also
Right.
started to realize that some people weren't joking. They were just telling it as a joke. And then now
Yeah.
I come an adult and I go, I don't think that guy was kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Uh, so that has to be, we have to adjust our trust for national security. That needs to be moved. If somebody just, let's say somebody like me, like I did the start and end of the GWAT in my career. There's no way, and the guys like me that are still in, they're in senior positions. They have to be, right? How could you not be? And they've all got clearances, but that means they're either really closeted about some shit that's about to happen, or they're, and I don't say closeted like they're gay. I mean closeted like these are personal issues I'm having.
I'm glad you
Nobody can
cleared that
see
up.
this, or it's going to affect my career. Or they're a powder keg waiting to go, like the former first group commander, or they're going to get out and because they have to. It doesn't have to be that way. We can change that by changing the culture and recognizing that the best way to keep that blade sharp is to hone it. And to hone it, people have to identify that there's rust and chips on the motherfucker.
I think we can
So
only do that by changing ourselves, the individual. The individual has to make the decision. I am going to, or here's a statement that I think about every day that my friend said, right? He said, there's no veteran loyalty when it comes to business. I took that statement personally and I said, me, I'm the only one I can affect in that. So I am going to try and remain as loyal as I can to Green Beret owned businesses, right?
Mhm.
As much as I can do through Green Beret owned businesses, just because of that statement. If if we want to change the culture, the fast way I can do it is to be an example and not to preach to other people. It's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what I say and I'm going to act it out. Because as you said, people change out in these commands and these policies and they all just go. And that the problem is people. Everybody PCSs and moves and goes away and they want to do these things. The army is always in flux. It's always a fucking disjointed machine that's all over the place. But the civilian that says this is how I am and I'm going to stay like this and try and influence from my position, because the military. You brought up all the points in this whole interview. Military is going to do whatever the fuck it wants to do, without regard to us. But we can make the decision for us and then talk about it.
We as
Um,
civilians,
as
right?
and I've come to understand that as civilians.
We as civilians. Yeah. I think we can keep a healthier population of Green Berets and operators all across the SOCOM enterprise if we can stop penalizing people for getting help. And it's not always getting help. Sometimes you just need to talk to somebody. All right, we got chaplain available, sure. But I mean, there's a number of programs out there that can be utilized. But there is none of them come without stigma. Not one. I've said this a couple times on various platforms, but I think the cultural change there is when individuals start climbing the ranks, that therapy needs to be required. I understand that in a whole op cycle, it would be difficult to get that in, but officers get hooked the fuck up. Oh, you're going to take a 2-year break to get your master's degree on the DoD's dime? Great. Get some therapy while you're there. Oh, you don't want to? Tough. That's part of the curriculum.
So I had a tooth issue in the course, right? And I knew I was going to get recycled if I went and got it taken care of on post, because I'd get a profile or I'd have to fucking go into med. You don't know what happens when you go into med hold. I
Right.
don't know if
Yeah.
they execute people or they just ship them back the second or whatever. So I drove my happy ass off post, got it pulled, came back to formation. And then all I had to deal with was dry socket instead of an infected tooth that needed to see the dentist and go back and blah, 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 right? So I was fine. I went to the next class. I was good. With every medical, we do the same thing. We don't want it to be an interference to the path that we're on. And if nobody
Yeah.
knows about it, then
Everybody's 100%
nobody knows
deployable
about it
all the time.
all the time.
Yep. All ones.
This is how I see it. And it's the problem with seeking mental health treatment while you're in uniform is this phrase: duty to report. And as soon as you say the wrong thing, that person that is licensed and contracted by the United States Army and reports to the colonel has to say something. They can't not say something. And that's the problem. That's the solution and the problem.
I disagree with you to a caveat, because this duty to report thing, the duty to report applies to harm to self or others. Bro, if you're
No,
having murderous
but we don't
thoughts,
know. When you go in there, you don't know what too far is. So you're going to be shielded. You're going to keep your guard
oh
up,
yeah, yeah,
and
100%.
you're just going to keep your walls up no matter what. And you're just going to
Sure.
say, I'm checking the box, because you
Even
don't.
when I was medevaced from a combat theater for the inpatient program, I reached out and said I needed help, because I recognized that if I didn't, I was going to go out and eat my Glock, just point blank, so to speak. That's what was going to happen. Even with that, I did not. I was 3 weeks into that program before I admitted that I was suicidal because of the stigma that went along with that. I said I had suicidal ideations, but I refused to say that I was suicidal. because for some reason that I felt like that tripped a, a trigger for the command. And I don't know if it did or not. I mean, I'm here. I'm still finishing my career. I might not be finishing it on the way I thought I was going to, but you know, my life is good. It's not easy, but my life is good. So what was the actual effect of that? I don't know. The problem is, I mean, or the difference there is I was in the tail end of my career when I did that. I was up for a CSM position within USOC, but either way, I was in the tail end of my career. If I had taken that CSM slot, it still would have been my last 2 years in the military. You know, it's not like I was trying to climb to something else. Again, there's no E10. Um, so the duty to report, I don't know if that's a huge stopper for people. I would say that if somebody says they're having suicidal thoughts or ideations, I don't know if that needs to be reported to the command with the, and I don't say that flippantly. I say that because if we look at the numbers of suicides we have, I think just by the stats, we can determine that there's a lot more people with suicidal thoughts and ideations than are reported. So maybe the mandatory reporting thing on that front isn't working. A mandatory report on homicidal thoughts or hurting kids or the elderly or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. We don't need freaking psychopaths in our ranks. Sociopaths, maybe, but we don't need psychopaths. I just, I really feel like once senior leaders have experienced what therapy is, they will be better leaders because they'll have a better balance. They'll be better with their own family and with their own people, their own tribe. But eventually it's going to reduce that stigma because you don't have to worry as much about what your command is going to do or restrict you from just because you felt like you needed to get something off your chest and you couldn't talk to your teammate or your wife about it. And maybe for whatever deep-seated reason, you don't necessarily trust the chaplain, which happens.
It can.
That culture needs to change. It needs to change on the SF-86 and it needs to change within the command.
Again, I go back to the people that we recruit, and you said, you know, a high number of people that have had rough childhoods, which also instills a lack of trust in people outside of your circle as well. So, you know, I I had this problem, I didn't deal with it, but now I found my people that I can rely on in the team room, and now you gotta go talk to somebody else. Well, I don't know this person. Why am I gonna I gotta you gotta so and then op temp I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I just go, there's so much shit going on that is working against us, and the time and getting proper diet and sleep and your pillow time and all these other things. It's rough. It's a rough thing, and the things that are asked of special operators or even as soldiers, you know, just the numbers in the regular army are just as bad, you know, as well. So it's a rough thing. We gotta, but I talked to my buddy the other day, and he mentors guys coming into the company he works for, and I wrote down what he said. He said, you know, you've had a good transition. You're coming out, you know, into a good job with people that know what you went through in the service. It's your responsibility to now turn around and put your hand out and give somebody else a hand up as they're getting out, because nobody's going to fucking do it. If you're not going to do it, nobody's going to do it. The individual has to say, I got my shit together. I would have helped somebody in the military. I would help my friends. I got to help this other person if they need it, or at least give them advice, or be there, or let them know that I'm there to help them if they need it. Like I have with this, like other platforms have, what you'll create with yours when you get out and you're able to spread your wings, so to speak, without the umbrella of command where now you can say and do whatever the fuck you want, right? It's like, hey, I'm here. I talked to one of your friends the other day, 406 MVP.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I
I'm on
talked
their
to him.
board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And working more with those guys and a resource and all these things of I can help. Hey, I know a guy in your area and your thing and all these other things. So it's my responsibility to take care of what I can first myself put your own gas mask or air oxygen mask on first and then help other people. And that's that's how I think we'll do it. And let people make the mistakes they need to make and stop them from making the one mistake that where they
the
won't make
one
any
mistake.
more.
Yeah, yeah, that's true, man. Yeah, all the all the resources are out there. I mean, we there's like 40,000 veteran nonprofits. We don't really need any more to do anything. If there is a need, I guarantee there's probably a nonprofit out there that has the mission and the means to help out. But a lot of people aren't asking for help, and that's for a variety of reasons. Maybe they don't know. Maybe it's the stigma of asking for help, or in our community, this is especially true. Somebody else deserves it more than I do. I don't
Imposter
want to take up
syndrome.
those resources. Guys got to know that those resources are for them. It's not for the next guy down the line.
I've talked to case managers at a lot of the the bigger soft nonprofits. There's a lot of people reaching out for help, a lot.
Good.
Um, and then from putting together that post at the end of the year of the number of suicides, it was a down year. You know, as good as that statistic can be, it was a down year. Case managers are as busy as they've ever been with assisting people with care and getting them to treatment and things like that. They're very busy. So there are a lot of people reaching
That's
out for
really
help
good.
and there are
Really
systems in
good.
place. I think it's we go to the good side of the most connected we are. There's a lot of people saying, "Hey, I can point you in the right direction. I can hook you up with this person. This is available."
Mhm.
There's what's the non dumb way to say this? Special operations influencers going on major podcasts and not making an ass of themselves, actually giving good information out that dudes are hearing of go, I served with that dude. Oh, he's saying that. Let me check into that and go see that. Mass, mass spread of information. And those are good things. There's a lot of good things happening and focus on the good. Focus on the good. Like I said, the people that we bash on lesser known operators, it's only one person. Fuck that guy. I don't hate on anybody else or anybody else's business. That's not the business of lesser known. I'm here to bring everybody else together and help everybody out and be positive while we're doing it. So you know, it's up to us. I do. I got one last one for you. When we spoke on the phone a few weeks ago and set up the interview, I asked you, what will you do now in life to live up to the person that you could have been in death if you had ended your life?
I think I'm largely doing it, man. What kept me from pulling that trigger was my kids, and my kids are adults. It's not like I'm coming home to them every day. My son lives with me, but um, that's what initially kept me from pulling the trigger. Um, I kind of emotionally and logistically, I was seeing myself as more of an asset as an SGLI check than a father. But I looked at the second, third order effects and saw that regardless if they had those hundreds of thousands of dollars to split amongst them, uh, they're going to be in therapy for the rest of their lives. And how I ended things is going to be my legacy with them. It's going to be all the time that I was gone for whatever mission that they already feel like I prioritized over them. And then I ended it before I could have. spend any more time with them. And that's what gave me the time and space to say I need to get some help. So I would say, just kind of ghost of Christmas future is kind of what we're going with here. I'm I'm focusing on more of a balance. I'm not driving so hard on any particular mission set that I'm neglecting the people in my life that allow me to be who I am. Um, I had lunch with my 30-year-old daughter yesterday, and I it wasn't a cheap lunch, just by virtue of living in the Seattle area. I don't know if you know this, but this has been ranked the most expensive place to dine out in the nation. Um, and she offered to Venmo for part of it, and I said absolutely not. Because that brought me joy to be able to buy her lunch. But it was the 45 minutes to an hour that we spent together that really paid for everything for me. I missed so much time either training or deployed with those kids when they were growing up. And I feel like I've really reconnected with them, and I have more of a sense of balance now, and I really want to keep that going, that balance. And it's difficult. I've got to recognize that they've got lives. My youngest is about to turn 19, and she takes 3 days to answer a text message unless she needs something. That's her. But I know she loves me. She tells me she loves me, even when she doesn't need something, and that's huge to me. So just being more present, um, with being more present in relationships, in personal relationships, not just professional. Did that answer the question,
Appreciate
or
you.
did I ramble?
Yeah, did. It's a tough question to answer, and it's a tough question to ask because I came up with it
Yeah.
because the people that are gone brought it into my mind and sit here on the desk. So thank you. And
You know, I will say it's not just my kids either. My I moved my grandfather in with me uh, in August. Um, I wanted to do this earlier, but he didn't want to move, and then he ended up in the hospital for lack of self care. And I've been his caretaker since August. And he's a 96-year-old World War II paratrooper, and he's that is that has got its own unique set of challenges. Sometimes there's some days where he's a World War II paratrooper. There's other days where he is a 96-year-old toddler. And that's I was a single dad as an E5. I didn't predict that I'd be doing it as a almost retired E9. Um, but I love that is taking up space in my life because that I can't imagine being able to have a clear conscience if he was in a home with a checklist for care instead of a relationship. I'm totally
pretty
shooting from the hip right now, by the way.
no,
This
that's
is
pretty
theater.
cool, man. No, you're good. You're good. I thank you for answering the question the way you did. And I've I'm as I said, that's a tough one for me to ask, and the only way I'm gonna get better at asking it is if I just ask people because, you know, you gotta make for as shitty as this sounds, you have to make find the good points in a bad situation. Because my friends that aren't here, your friends that aren't here, they're not here anymore. They're not here anymore, but there are people that I can help, you can help, we can help by talking about it, just being present for people that are around and make the most of a shitty situation. Because we've all been in some really shitty situations together, right? And those turned out to be the times we learned the most about one another and ourselves. All the times that things were easy, completely wasted. You know, we didn't learn anything. Um, we only we're negative bias. We only remember the bad things that happened to us in life and the hard lessons. And you know, when I was drinking and everything was easy and I was comfortable, I don't remember that at all, except, you know, that I was drinking too much and shitty to people. And now I don't want to be like that. And we'll suffer together. A little bit of awkward silence or awkward conversation now will pay dividends in a few years, I think. And it seems to have for you.
It was very difficult, and it's still not easy, you know. But through reaching out for help, um, I will say some of the therapy I've done has been harder than selection. I don't want to give people the wrong idea that once they talk to somebody, everything's magically better. Um, because it's not. It takes work, uh, and it takes sometimes literally looking at yourself in the mirror if you do a specific treatment modality that I won't spoil because it'd be like talking about the end of SEER school. But it's it
Yeah,
is not
yeah.
without challenges just to keep going. Just because you get help doesn't mean that things are magically better. But if somebody didn't quit in selection and they didn't quit in the Q course, they didn't quit on their team, then, and I'm saying this to the soft guys that are listening, you have it in you to see this through. If you're struggling, you've already proved that you have it within you to see this through. You just have to be willing to do this for yourself and not just for your teammates. And even if it's the impetus is, like it was for me, you're initially doing it for your kids. That's fine. Eventually, it's going to have to be for you or it's going to be for nothing.
Yeah. We only do things if we have to or we want to. And it's much easier if you want to. And then when you have to and want to, then it's we got to get this shit underway, right? Fuck yeah. Ah, very heavy subject. Very heavy subject. I gotta shake that off. I'm gonna,
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
dude. Yeah.
but
You do some
we're
Afghan
gonna
jumping jacks.
let's wrap this up with a couple plugs. First one is what's on your shirt there.
Field Ethos. This is an outdoor magazine that have been they've been nice enough to pay me for some articles every now and then. I'm actually a couple stories behind on them, but they've been very understanding because it's been my grandpa moving and whatnot. But really cool journal. If you're into hunting, fishing, or just outdoors in general and adventure, it's a good magazine. They do a quarterly print, and but they also have digital stories coming out daily on digital. My good friend Terry Hewlin is a retired Virginia Beach guy. He writes for him on the regular as well. Um, it's just a good crew, man. Good crew, good stories. So mentioned 406 MVP.
Oh
Montana
yeah,
Vets program
Luke, right? Luke.
is yeah, Luke. Yeah. If you're kind of in that outdoor vein, if you looking to be challenged, not just go do kumbaya, maybe that's not your speed. You actually want to sweat a little bit and remember what it was like to actually overcome something physically. Montana Vets program is right for you. We do backcountry trips, do river floats, things like that. It's in Montana. It is at no cost to the veteran. All you have to do is get there. And if you have trouble getting there, there's ways we can help out with that as well. But the motto for Montana Vets is suffer well. So that it's not easy.
Yeah,
It's a good program.
I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm going to help him with. Actually, it sounds like you and I will probably help him with some Whiskey One staffing for this summer for him.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
so I got a couple avenues to get him some more people
Yeah.
for
That'll
some
be
med
good. I
coverage.
always like it when there's a soft guy to see just how slow I move on the trail.
So, yeah, we'll get some more. We get some help for them. How can everybody find you on the socials if they so choose?
I'm primarily on Instagram, Red Leader standing by, Red Leader underscore standing by. I'm under my true name, Tier Symack. Just be careful if you look me up under name because I am very popular with the Nigerians. You may end up following a spoof account. On Facebook, I'm Charlie Martell. I tried to change it to my real name, but they didn't believe that Tier Symack was my real name. So I'm just forever Charlie Martell, which used to be my pseudonym, my pen name. You can message me on LinkedIn and I will get back to you in 2 to 3 months because I check that quarterly.
That's the final PSA for this episode. Nobody should be on LinkedIn. It's the most fake social media platform there is. And there was a great status somebody had the other day. They said, reading one LinkedIn article is like unreading 5 books. And I thought that was pretty good.
If you're looking for a job, you have to be on there. You have to have a profile on there, but you don't have to post. You absolutely do not have to post.
All right, Tier. I appreciate you coming on. And again, if there's anything that you come across that you think I can help with or lesser known operators can help with, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And I know you and you know me, and we're all part of this weird 18 Fox network I got up here in the sky, you know.
Nice. Yeah, man.
You got
Yeah,
anything
keep
for me,
doing it.
brother?
Now,
Trying.
keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, we're all going to do it together. I appreciate you coming on. Bye, everybody.